Welcome, people. Okay, so today I have a loose topic. Not many articles specifically relating to it, but the reason it's an aesthetics stream is because I'm going to be sending out the Hangouts link to Church of Entropy and Pilleater, because we were talking about him on the last stream, and then we were also talking about aesthetics, and then I thought, hey, that's a great excuse to have a whole stream dedicated to beautiful things, which is why we have, our beautiful Paul Joseph Watson thumbnail with pictures of Melania Trump. And as you can see, I've put a lot of effort into the setup for this stream. It's probably the most beautiful looking one with all of these elements here. But me and Church of Entropy have different terms for discussing these issues, but I think somewhat similar views. And that's why I'm not sure if what we'll be having is a discussion or a debate. We're going to try to see if we can kind of find an agreed upon resolution that we're on opposite sides of. And part of it is that I have this thing that I've been promoting, which is the morality and ethics distinction. Because it basically solves all of these like stupid philosophical masturbatory ethical problems of like train car problems and lifeboat scenarios and all that bullshit. If you just distinguish morality and ethics, it just makes everything make so much sense. And then we have this question of aesthetics. Where does it belong? And I realized aesthetics just belongs to morality, and I even suggest that they're just the same thing. So morality is aesthetics. They are 100% identical. And then ethics has more to do with things that are prohibitive, things that are binding on other people, and it's an objective, logical science, whereas morality and ethics are subjective. And then my understanding of Jen's position is that she agrees that there's this ethics-morality distinction, but she places aesthetics in the realm of the objective. And I don't know whether that means she would also say it has to do with ethics. That's something that I'd have to, once I get her on here, we'll be talking about some of that stuff. So my plan for this stream is first I'm going to do what I normally do, which is talking about different articles and things, different topics, and then bring on Church of Entropy and Pilleater. And once both of them are on, we will have our discussion slash debate and just kind of see where it goes. Technically, Pilleater would be the moderator, but I don't think a moderator is really necessary. It's more just an excuse to bring him on again. So that I guess that's the gimmick. Okay, since I mentioned it, I'll make sure I record it. So this stream is going to be divided. After I have it go live, I'm going to clip out the part where we have our discussion slash debate and then re-upload that part. So sorry, just give me one. I'm just responding to it looks like Kevin has expressed interest in hopping on, so I might toss him a link. Thanks for bearing with me. Okay, so before I bring people on, I realized it's easier if I'm just here by myself while I play video, because otherwise it's like awkward to get everyone to have to like be quiet or whatever, and then I have to shut up during the delay for it. So I figure it's easier if I just play the video on my end, and then I know when I'm able to talk again. So before I talk about anything aesthetic. This is slightly old news, but there was this drama in Canada over Derek Sloan, Canadian politician for the Conservatives, right? And he came out criticizing Theresa Tam, Canada's chief public health officer, and it was kind of a bitch and a half just to find his original video. All right. Hello, Korea Man. Hello, Paulo. Hello, Alejandro. Oh, and Pilleater's already in the chat, too. All right. Usual suspects. So I wanted to mention this just because, yeah, it was a bitch and a half just to find his original video, because if you search for it on Facebook or on YouTube, you'll find all these people commenting on what he said, but, like, nobody plays the fucking video. I did find this one, like, podcast of these Asians complaining that it was racist, and I listened to some of it, and it was pretty funny. I couldn't help myself. I left, like, a mean comment. Not a mean comment, a critical comment. So I don't know. We'll see if they respond to that. But Anyway, I'm just going to play this really quick.
Hi, I'm Derek Sloan, Conservative Party of Canada leadership candidate, member of Parliament for Hastings, Lennox, and Addington. I don't know about you, but I have been disgusted by the way that Justin Trudeau and his team has handled the coronavirus pandemic. For one, they were late on almost every count to institute travel bans, to recommend wearing masks, initially talking about the virus and suggesting that it was from China was considered racist. One of the issues with Justin Trudeau's handling of this situation has been his reliance on the advice of Dr. Theresa Tam. Theresa Tam, we sent an email out today asking, does she work for Canada or for China? And I encourage you to read that email. There's some interesting information in there. It was Dr. Theresa Tam who is on a special panel on the World Health Organization right now. She also parrots their information at every available opportunity. We know for a fact that China covered up many details concerning the coronavirus outbreak. There's been a study that was done in England that suggested if China had come out with the truth, we could have potentially avoided up to 90% of the cases that we have today. The World Health Organization parroted Chinese misinformation coming out from the Communist Party of China, and basically what they said was that no, there's no human-to-human transmission when they knew very well that there was. They said no, there's no reason to have travel bans when in fact the countries that did early travel bans were very successful in keeping the number of cases at bay. Theresa Tam followed the World Health Organization every step along the way. She accused Canadians who were concerned about this virus initially for being racist. She also suggested that travel bans were unnecessary, and as late as January 14th, she suggested that human-to-human transmission of the coronavirus was not happening when very credible evidence suggested that it was. China has been responsible, the Communist Party of China has been responsible for installing the current head of the World Health Organization, the first head who is not in fact a medical doctor and has been accused of covering up cholera epidemics in Ethiopia, his native country. It is time we put Canadians first. It is time we had a plan to get the economy opened up and get things going. Other countries have teams in place looking at when and how to open up the economy and get things going. We have been last to respond on every single element of this coronavirus outbreak, and we are not even thinking about what to do to open up our economy again. Please read my email today. Thank you so much for watching this video.
And I'm just waiting out the delay. Anyway, that was like 2 minutes. I don't know. God, that was so boring. I'm sorry. But I don't know. I don't think it's that spicy. But like these guys did. These guys complained for 20 minutes about it. I'm gonna save you. Let me see. Are they? Yeah, you can see all four of them here. Okay, so the two on the left I think are Gaysian. You can tell by how they talk. Not that I'm one to judge. But I think obviously we got to be intersectional, right? So I just want to make sure that that's not invisible here. The guy in the bottom right complains about one of the other people being articulate in like a really inarticulate way that was like really meandering and annoying and pointless. And then this bitch Amy is like, I mean bitch in a nice way. She's like complaining about how somebody like accosted her on the street because she was wearing her face mask. An old lady yelled at her and told her to go back to her country or whatever. And she told the whole story with just like this shit-eating grin on her face. Maybe she's just a really smiley person, but I feel like that's the real motivation is she was like, ooh, yay, I have an awesome racist story to share on social media, right? The guy on the top, I don't remember what he was saying. Something about the demographics and how Asians are more conservative or whatever, which is that different in Canada? Because I think Asians tend to be slightly more liberal. I might be wrong about that. I don't know. But anyway, like all of them are complaining about how horrible and racist it was for Derek Sloan to say, you know, is she representing people of Canada or people of China, right? And like clearly his criticism is linked to her involvement with the WHO, and he makes a clear argument of how that's related to China and what China does, right? So agree or disagree, it's like clear that his statements aren't race-based. Meanwhile, all four of them just like make casual comments about like white racism and how they're under siege, and we need to have Asian Heritage Month. Which, guys, did you know that I guess May is the Asian month? So we have the Black Month in February, the Asian Month in May. Do women get a month or just a day? Did we decide women get a month yet? I don't remember. And then the gays get 2 months now, right? The gays get July, but then they also have like coming out month or something. So the gays have like double representation temporally as we do spatially, which is like ludicrous. But anyway, I thought that was just like annoying. But the reason I mention it is because I was trying to find just like on YouTube a clip of the video before I found it on his Twitter. And like these fuckers are playing the video, but like there's no sound when they're playing it. It's just there's no sound. You just sit here and there's no sound. And I can't even express enough how much there's no sound when they're playing this, and I was so frustrated. So that motivated me to like be petty and give them a dislike and leave a mean comment because I'm not above that. I don't know. Is there anything else to even say about this? It just like stupid racial whataboutism, boring, and that's as anti-China as I will tolerate on my streams. Otherwise, this is a pro-China space. China number one. So they're your people. Who are my people? The gays? I mean, not really. I mean, I disavow them as like every opportunity. But yeah, this was the other thing too. You guys probably heard about this thing going around. These high school seniors made this like stupid TikTok video where they put ingredients into like a bucket, right? And it was like a bunch of like funny racist stereotypes. And like it wasn't funny, but also like there was nothing inaccurate about it. Like they mentioned, oh yeah, there's black crime and single motherhood. And it's like, yeah, those are things. But the reason I wanted to comment on this is because I think it's such bullshit that they were expelled over activities that are like not part of school, you know? And this is just another example in the massive pile of reasons that I absolutely despise anti-racists. And it's another reason that I no longer have any support or sympathy for Vermin Supreme, because he's been cucking to the anti-racist so hard on Twitter, and it's the most like cringy and awful stupid fucking thing ever. Because like this goes back to the ethics morality distinction. Racism is not unethical. Racism, you can argue it's immoral, right? It's aesthetically displeasing to just hate someone for no other reason but their race, right? And I guess all of the quote unquote, the most robust forms of quote unquote racism are all based in things that have nothing to do with race, right? Like if people are saying, oh, like there's black crime and these black issues and I'd rather avoid it, their issue isn't fundamentally essentially with black people. Their issue is with crime, and they're noticing a racial trend, right? So there's a theoretical way to solve this, which would be to address the underlying issues such that you could have your multicultural society. But thanks to the fucking anti-racist, we're not even allowed to explore those issues. They've completely just savaged anybody who wants to speak truth to power. And at this point, like the anti-racists, they didn't like win the debate. They used the power of the state to absolutely round up and lynch all of the racists and drive them underground. And this is just another example of that. So, you know, I'm not going to say, like, I don't identify as a racist. I don't think racism is good. I don't think it's unethical, though. You know, I guess racism is kind of funny in that sense. There's some aesthetic value to it, but mostly I think it's kind of like silly and irrelevant because usually there's a reason for it, right? And the reasons are what's important, and it's kind of just a big red herring. But the anti-racists aren't just immoral and disgusting to me. They are unethical. They are people who use the state to create all kinds of barriers, and until the Civil Rights Act of 1964 gets overturned or like thrown out or whatever, like this is my issue. I will die on this hill. Like I will defend the racists because, you know, first they came for the Nazis and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Nazi, right? And that's really the path we're on. And it just I despise the fact that anti-racists are under this delusion that like they're the ones under siege, right? That they're the ones who are speaking truth to power, that they're somehow subversive or anything like that, as if we live in a culture that's anything but an anti-racist, hegemonic fucking shit show. Anyway, I feel better. Thanks for indulging me. Sorry, chat. Let me make sure I'm paying attention. Carnivor's asking, are you a top or a bottom? No, for me it depends on. It just depends. Um, like I don't. Yeah, I think it's weird when people like identify as one or the other. Because I feel like then you're just kind of like limiting yourself. Um, in the West, if you say the N word in your off time, but a black classmate reports you to the principal or deans, you would expelled or something. Yeah, it's stupid. Like the N word is the Voldemort word. It's the most powerful word in the English language. And what more evidence do you need? But that the anti-racists have achieved absolute hegemonic control. You know. Yeah, and you could argue, right, that anti-racism is aesthetically or morally superior to racism, just for the sake of argument. But in my opinion, the ethical realm trumps the moral realm, and that's the key issue, right? The number one priority is to minimize that which is unethical and to promote good ethics, and then from there we can look at having things that are morally preferable, but you're not allowed to use unethical methods to impose your morals on others. Carnivore's a proud racist, Hey, I guess here's your safe space. I'll tolerate racism because, as I said, I believe it's ethically permissible. The only things that I would actually censor is if anybody says anything bad about Melania Trump, and China number one, and don't say anything that'll like definitely get my channel banned. Those are like the only things. Okay, Liberal Hammer says he probably won't make it tonight, but another time for sure. All right. Well. Jay Willie, you're available for a short time. Let me go ahead and share my Hangouts link to get some other people on here. Because there weren't any other videos I was going to play. So now I just have articles. So we'll send things out to see who else wants to hop on. So we have our colorful cast of characters. It's probably past Ashley's bedtime. It's lame. Sorry, I'm not good at like navigating and sending links while talking. Let me see. Oh yeah. And I'm going to send the link to Pilleater too, in case you want to hop on for the early part of it. There's just a couple of other items I had here. So I figured because I told you guys a certain time, but then I knew I was going to wake up early. So I figured I would start my stream early, and then I'll send you guys the link if you want to hop on early. But then once I have both of you in here, we can transition to the aesthetics discussion / debate. Whenever, like early or whatever. And then, sorry, just setting one more link. So I have this article here about Paul Joseph Watson. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but like lately he's been tweeting about himself and how pretty he is, which is like fucking stupid, but really funny. Because, I mean, he is, right? Like name what man is better looking than Paul Joseph Watson? Like, serious question. Right? I mean, like, we all know I'm kind of a rice queen, right? So I'm biased, but I'll still concede, like, yep, it's probably Paul Joseph Watson. Sometimes, like, his takes on things, it's very, like, boomer conservative, and I just can't, so I can watch the video on mute. But, like, I can't. His Twitter is a little bit more entertaining, but somebody wrote this article about him, which was on the beauty of Paul Joseph Watson. How pretty is he? 1 to 10. Well, I think he'd be the 10. I think that, like what's wrong with him? There's nothing. I guess earlier on when he had like longer hair, it wasn't a very good look for him. But I mean, does hair even count? Paulo, you'd say he's an 8? Well, who's your 9 or 10? Yeah, exactly. He has beautiful eyes. It's like ridiculous. There ought to be a law. It's like like I can't even handle it. Um, I don't think I read this article in full though. Sorry, I cropped this stupidly because I have another article that this was cropped for. I guess there's no winning. But yeah, it was on the beauty of Paul Joseph Watson. Lovely hair. I wouldn't mind running my fingers through it as long as he kept his mouth shut. This is like almost literally what I said. Beauty is a form of genius, said Oscar Wilde. Higher, indeed, than genius, as it needs no explanation. Wilde may well have appreciated the face of Paul Joseph Watson, the video provocateur and radical rightist on Twitter. I love how it's like, oh, he's on Twitter. It's like his main platform was like InfoWars. He was like Alex Jones's person. Anyway, PJW, as the boys call him when they're all together in the bats back home in Sheffield, is a good-looking man, and you'd have to be blind not to know it himself. Oh, guys, and he would have to be blind not to know it himself. He's so secure in his looks, in fact, that he's very comfortable telling everyone how gosh darn attractive he is. It's very rock and roll. On Sunday, in a battle of the British, Watson launched a furious tirade at Piers Morgan for being not only wrong, apparently, but insufficiently hot. Things got pretty ugly pretty quickly. Okay, and then it's just like, oh, here's a bunch of tweets. I fucking hate this style of article where they're like, hey guys, look at all this stuff I found on Twitter. I wrote an introduction and now, like, but it is funny because he's not wrong. Because Piers Morgan is like the worst. He's super tiresome and obnoxious, and he's not even sufficiently hot. Like, all of that's fair. But there was a point where Paul Joseph Watson, he tweeted out, like, here's the Chad face of, like, his own face. And that was awful. But, you know, whatever. Oh yeah, and then the weird part of it was Mike Cernovich tweeting, Paul Joseph Watson is legitimately one of the best looking men I've ever seen in real life, and I've partied at the hottest clubs, lived in Hollywood, etc. Unless you've met him in real life, you can't fully appreciate it. Actually, I think Mitch met Paul Joseph Watson last year, and they had a pint or
Oh wait,
whatever.
I still have this fucking thing muted. Why did I always mute this fucking Chrome?
Oh hey Fleegan, I can hear you. So you're yeah.
I always have Chrome muted because I sometimes support Twitch streamers that I don't want to watch.
Oh yeah, no, I did that once too. Oh no, I did that with Discord. That's the reason I thought we couldn't use Discord anymore. I couldn't figure out what the fuck the deal was, and it's because I was using it like in browser because I didn't want to download the app because that was like too many steps. It was too difficult. Um, and then I realized like, oh, I had it muted because I didn't know how to mute the notifications because like it was like multiple tier like Inception boomer shit.
Actually, I think now I know very well how to navigate muting all the notifications because after after each of the last three updates of Discord, when I restarted it, it turned all the notifications back on again. I was like, "What's this shit? Oh fuck! Where was it? Where was it?" And now I'm pretty sure, like, if I try to navigate the settings, yeah, they're all turned off. I still get some though. Like Discord is a mess.
So, any thoughts on Paul Joseph Watson and how he's probably legitimately the most beautiful person on the planet besides Melania Trump?
Honestly, as a straight man, I have to say he's fucking cute.
Yeah, there we go, right?
That is a good-looking man. You can't deny that. You would be lying if you said anything else.
Oh yeah, like basically anybody will admit it. The only people who would deny it would be closeted gays. That'd be that's the only way.
He became the perfect way to determine if someone's a closeted gay.
That's it. You gotta ask them straight up, like Paul Joseph Watson, beautiful or no? And if they say no, it's like
Yes.
closet. I also Paulo commenting on Paul Joseph Watson's eggs. It's a good point. We need to freeze his eggs immediately. What if they're lost forever? How many thousands of years will we have to wait until we have another PJW?
Yeah,
This
I
is
mean,
funny
That's a
though.
very good question.
there will come a day when we can only imagine his shock because it's gone.
I know. We'll have to actually imagine his shock. We won't be able, he won't show it to us. So this is funny though.
Yeah,
I
we
didn't
actually
notice this.
always do because he never.
I was a little bit
But
concerned that I didn't have enough items that were relevant to aesthetics, and I just realized this other one I grabbed. This agree or disagree. Black girls should be able to wear they hair how they want for jobs. Dyed afros, box braids, croquets, and etc. End texture discrimination. Black hair is presentable. So this
I
is
would
gonna
just
expand
ask
our
the person
conversation
who
of
wrote
aesthetics.
this, like, I would just ask them to learn to spell correct English, and then I would probably take them seriously.
No, their English is correct. We have Ebonics, and grammar is a white patriarchal construction. How dare you?
But
Logic
we
is
also have
phallocentric. You
pigeon.
Oh my
cannot impose
God, that's
logic.
kind of true though,
Yeah,
We
if
also
you.
have pigeon.
especially
Like
in
that's
Canada.
Have you seen the BBC's pigeon version of the online pseudo newspaper?
Oh yeah,
I,
pigeon is
Yeah, but that's not
I,
wonderful.
thought
English
Yeah,
though.
I
BBC
thought it
pigeon
was
is my
really
favorite.
hilarious. Like the BBC has like these British people with their very eloquent English writing in pigeon, and it's like really demeaning that they do that. Like they assume that the people who speak pigeon couldn't read their original articles, so they write what they think is pigeon, and it's funnier than actual
Well,
pigeon.
Oh, it's not even actual pigeon. I
I,
didn't realize that. That's. Hmm. Hmm.
It's a
that
learned
makes it even worse.
pigeon. Like they don't have the people who speak pigeon write that version of the article. It's just some pompous douche, I guess. Or probably a woman. Let's be fair.
I want to read
May I
somebody who
use?
knows pigeon criticizing them. Also, we have Pilleater in here. Welcome.
Hi guys.
Yeah,
Hello
nice to
there.
have you back. I sent Jen the link too, but I'm wondering if maybe she is expecting it to start more around the time I said before. But I told her I'd start early. She wanted to hop on early, so.
Yeah, the
May I
thing
just
you wanted
add
to say
something when you?
earlier, Jay Willie, you still feel comfortable sharing that? I couldn't understand you earlier, like on Discord.
Yeah, I just want to say something in regards to the earlier topic about why anti-racism is such a shitty and bad thing for society, in my opinion, right? It appears as though people, right, the anti-racist hegemony over society is really bad, right? Because they have basically defined racism as the absolute moral wrong, and that everything should go from that starting point. That racism is the worst thing, and then everything else follows, right? So, as if something would go against the grain of racism not being the worst thing ever, then that things need to be discarded because they're literally defined racism as being the absolute anti-moral, the moral absolute when it comes to negative. Like they have defined racism as being the absolute lowest thing, and that like instead of having God or a religion, right, they have defined racism as being the anti-Christ, for example, and then everything should go against that, and if it doesn't go against that, then it's like blasphemous. And the main position that everything should follow from is that racism is bad, it should be opposed, and then everything else comes afterwards. So if something would kill people or scientific research and it's really dangerous and genocide, everything you can think of, it all valued if it's like can go against racism, and if it's not explicitly opposed to racism, then it's going to be discouraged and be suppressed. So therefore, society we're gonna get stuck whenever something about that comes up, if that makes sense.
But yeah, I blame the Abrahamics for it and just religion in general because really what you do is if you're using religion to control people's behavior, then what you do is you treat ethics and morality as the same thing, and then that way you're able to impose with the weight of ethics your moral preferences. And I think that basically most people in the anti-racist crowd, they haven't really challenged the underlying assumptions of like the Abrahamic cultures that they were raised in. So they've just replaced it with the kind of the progressive religion, and that's why we always call anti-racism and feminism and those things like religious, because they really do mimic those those tropes.
Yeah, it's actually
Yeah,
more
exactly.
dogmatic than any form of the Christian religion I've ever been in touch with. Like, I'm pretty sure there's
But
like
if
some
you
Christian
compare-
cults that are as dogmatic, but Jesus fucking Christ, like, if I was a progressive, I would have to like have like an RSS feed of what I'm allowed to think, say, and do today, because it changes all the time.
Yeah, I guess I will say
Although
though,
I
it
would
does
say that
seem.
some progressives are okay with racism, and that would be the original progressive who are the eugenicists. Whereas, but the modern regressive progressives, they're the ones that are who actually really are racist, but they claim to be anti-racist. That doesn't make anti-racism good or anything. It's also like a shitty viewpoint, anti-racism. But the people who claim to be against, like, here's the funny part: anti-racists are the worst racists I've noticed. But something else I've also noticed is that racists tend to be the best anti-racists too. It works both ways. Have you also realized that?
Racists are the best anti-racists.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on how you define it, right? Like a lot of like maybe you have like reluctant racists, right? They're just like looking at trends and underlying factors and things, and then they're like, I really don't want to be racist, but like I'm noticing this.
No, but here's the kicker, right? What I mean by that, if you look at the people who are racist, right, for have no problem with being racist, right? They usually have, or admitting that they are racist, right? They usually say this, like if they doesn't want to live around people of different races, right? People say why not, and then people say like they want to, and then they basically say, but by defending a segregation system, right? The anti-racists, they basically say like, oh my god, it's a racism towards black people, and then the racists would be like, why do you care about being around black people? Do you think that only black people need to be around white people to not suffer, and as black people, when they're with only black they suffer, and they need to be with white and they not suffer, but as white people suddenly are completely fine not being around blacks, right? And if you and the people who are racist have no problem with admitting that glaring hidden racism within the anti-racism, and that's something that should be exposed. So people actually see a lot of racist things in society, and would probably go against it. And the real racists, are the ones that would actually agree with going against that, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, so basically you're saying that first of all, there's like a lack of the benevolent racism, but then second of all, if you're looking at it from like a utilitarian perspective, like the or the racists in practice are actually going to create societies that are like better for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And the societies they want will probably be less racist.
Yeah,
There's
I mean, I
actually
still, I still think multiculturalism in theory could have its day, but we need to see if it can work without
real
people trying to ruin
multiculturalism
it.
has never been tried.
I'll die in that hill. I don't care. Real multiculturalism hasn't been tried yet. God damn it. But what do you guys think of? Honestly, I kind of agree with these black chicks and their hair. Like I'm very permissive. I'm okay with this being acceptable.
Yeah, if
But
it's not impractical, like there's many ways where a huge fucking fro could become a technical issue, like physically.
Oh
Like,
yeah, or in like a movie theater.
Yeah, and even in certain jobs, I assume that
Yeah, that's fair.
especially. Yeah, I would
But
in general like let everyone do what the fuck they want. I don't care as long as they're not hurting anybody, you know.
yeah, but they're angling for like an office job or something. Like the office doesn't give a shit, right?
Well, it depends on what office. Like around here, we had like this fucking discussion about women shouldn't. We need to have like higher temperature in offices. Like the women,
Oh
they
yeah,
come
yeah.
in their like blazers, like very thin layers, and they completely ignore that in these offices the men are forced to come in like a full suit, so they're warm and cozy if the temperature is low.
Hey, well, maybe the
Maybe you
big
should.
hair will offset it then, right? They have natural earmuffs like every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that could
So
be a
there we
solution.
go. This is
Hire
racial
Afro
equality and
women.
gender, yeah, and gender equality. Sorry, Pilleater, you were gonna jump in with something.
No, I was just thinking about that statement about racist and anti-racist and whatnot. Um, from what I understood, I don't know if anybody has been following what antics the far right or some of the nationalist sphere has been going on. But, I've actually neglected the scene almost for about 2 years now. And it was just until the other week ago I actually started to look at a Twitter feed from Countercurrents. And the oddest part of it all is, since Unite the Right, people basically have went into utter chaos, and the far right has lost most of its legitimacy. But ironically, you see more this kind of, I would say, left wing or left leaning within the right, as in that the right now believes in taking on kind of things that would pass as somewhat of the maybe not neoliberal, but kind of Antifa, or maybe somewhat of an anti-capitalist stance. But if you go on American Renaissance right now, mrn.com, you'll see the headline article about white working class and communism can synergize. But then you go on the Countercurrents Twitter feed, and there seems to be this kind of anger or kind of infighting, particularly about people like Matthew Heimbach, who for a very long time was a open national socialist, but then now is now working for some kind of, I think, anti-racist institution and having more of
Oh Lord.
communist ethics.
Oh yeah. And Heinbach, he was the guy that
Oh,
All Type made a video
it's
about him,
become
right?
even
Just a
dumber.
few weeks ago.
Well, the argument on Countercurrents is that now it's like the Wignats are becoming more of this kind of moved left wing, or that maybe a lot of the radicals that the right wing or the white nationalists were accepting are now becoming, I don't like this, the white nationalist party. They're a bunch of manipulators and angry, and now I'm going to be defiant and join the opposite party and fight for anti-racism. But then at the ironic part, you see publications like Countercurrents saying, well, we don't like these people, but we still believe that we have to secure the white race and secure capitalism. So there's a lot of like mixed signals from both sides of far right, post Unite the Right, and dysfunctionality going on, infighting. And it's if, and again, one more thing, yesterday was May Day. And I don't know if anyone follows the RedTube scene with some of the leftists like Non-Compete or Reeducation and Thought Slime and YouTube channels like that. They were having this celebration, being like casual hangouts and trying to talk about their, I wouldn't say issues, but more about how they believe that there's now this united cultural meme left wing culture from the outskirts of, Vosh or something. Well, now you have people like Countercurrents. All they're doing is talking about we have to stay firm and protect capitalism and hate on the ex-white nationalists who are now joining people on May Day or something like that. But yeah, a lot of that crazy stuff's going on, and I've just been making these observations. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
Interesting.
I
this is actually quite
noticed.
interesting. It is very interesting that you could made it observations because it was exactly the thing. I told you that they're basically defining racism as the moral absolute bad that everything should go against, rather than to stand for something. They only stand against that, and that everything should go from that point. I'm so interested that you said exactly that. Oh my God, it is so brilliant. That is exactly how they are. That's the reason why the anti-racists are idiots.
Well, I
They're
don't
so
know.
bad.
Like,
Their principle is so morally bankrupt. It's unbelievable.
yeah, but I think the point though too is a lot of these people who are like in like the anti-racist camp, a lot of these like Wignats and people. Personally, I think they didn't really change. That they were never really on board with capitalism because they were. It was so easy for them to to throw it all under the bus. Because I noticed that back when Nick Fuentes made his video about how the Republican Party needs to go further to the left, in order to get more support, right? And like
That
that,
sounds
they never
so
had a
stupid.
yeah, they never had an issue with it. Whereas like in the libertarian circles, we were always accused of being racist because we take a stance that says, you can't force people to associate with others even if You know, even if anti-racism is your moral ideal, you still can't force it on people. And then because of that, you know, we were, I guess, the original racists, right? And we're the ones, you know, pointing out like Abraham Lincoln was a terrible president, you know, and just like things like that are like classic libertarian talking points. But like it was never motivated by racism. It was motivated by anti racism. So
Um,
But
yeah, so it made
it,
awkward bedfellows, and I think a lot of these just angry, retarded racists, like, yeah, they did
slight
kind of show up
tangent,
and make a bad name of the whole thing. So I will say
slight
that much.
tangent that I would like to make because I saw it on the news today. And it was kind of funny to me. Like like Slovakia, the country, they have a lot of native Roma, like the ones that travel around Europe. Their families who are settled live in like there's 5 villages that are purely Roma in Slovakia. And this is like in a really, really poor area, and these Roma, they refuse to pay taxes, they refuse to interact with other people. And because it's such a poor area, once they got coronavirus cases, they could track it back to these 15 Roma that went back from probably stealing some shit. Like, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but it's very likely that they came back from like robbing some stupid Europeans. And then they put those cities on the lockdown because they could isolate the source of the virus. And Swiss media was like, "That's so racist." Like, I would want to see how you think if you've been raised in a village next to the gypsy village. Like these
I
people,
noted that's a
nobody.
funny trend in Europe too. Is like they'll be very much consolidated in the anti-racist block, I guess. But then as the moment you bring up gypsies, different story.
Yeah, it's like for us, it's
I've
like
actually,
really. Oh, we
I've
have the
actually,
Yenish. Like they usually actually work when they travel, and yeah, but like, have you met Roma gypsies? Like that's not a stereotype. You're not being an asshole if you live to the village next to them, and you know these people, and you say these are not good people. Like, is that racist? Like all the Slovakians aren't necessarily Western Europeans themselves, so I'm not saying it's correct to discriminate against these Roma, but the other ones were not traveling. So saying, hey, they brought it in, let's isolate them, that wasn't racist. It was just common sense. Like, if nobody traveled except for the Roma, who the
What
fuck
if
do you think? Yeah,
I also would like to bring up
wait. Before you do, I just want to acknowledge
basically.
Jen's here. So I wanted to say hi and let her say hi.
oh, hello
Hello,
there.
Yen.
Hey guys, nice to see you. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going pretty well. We covered
Well,
a few different items loosely related to aesthetics, and I've put together a lovely montage of Melania Trump and beautiful things and silly colors and stuff.
But I just need to finish the point.
Nice.
Yeah, Jay Willie,
Like
go ahead.
the thing yeah, the thing I would like to say is is yeah mm, the reason they have a problem with libertarianism, the freedom of association, is because the logical conclusion is that if you give people forced association and you can't discriminate, that's basically like promoting rape. That means you cannot say no to this person based on their if that's motivated by racism or whatever, right? Because that means that people should be forced to have sex with people against their will. That's like if people are against freedom of association and want forced association, they're technically pro-rape, right? But the anti-racist, the moral absolutism is that it's being against racism, and that means that racism is a bigger bad to them than rape. So if people need to be raped for racism to go away, then they will gladly rape a lot of people. That's the reason why they call people who oppose anti-discrimination laws racist, because they think that racists should be raped, right? And they also, and that's the reason why several women, right, in like places like Australia, right, one men's rights activist woman, right, was raped or sexually assaulted by an immigrant, but they said like, no, we're not going to prosecute him because his religious and immigrant background is like, and we don't want to lead to racism. And the reason in the UK they don't want to prosecute rape from the Pakistani grooming ground is because we don't want it to be racist, right? So, and that's the same reason as to why the same anti-racists are against are supporting anti-discrimination laws, because in their moral framework, right, rape is completely fine as long as it leads to and excusing rape and forcing raping people is, according to their worldview, anti-racism, a good thing if it leads to if they can use it to go against racism and rape. According to them, if people being raped, right, and them doing something about it, taking action leads to racism, then they would rather have those women being raped more and more and not having any justice because of the anti-racist principle that racism is the worst thing and anti-discrimination needs to happen. So therefore, rape is less important than racism. That means that if people are being raped, and then they should not get justice because that can lead to racism, right? You see what I'm following with here? That's the logic of anti-racism. This is the reason why anti-racism is a horrible, morally injustifiable viewpoint. It's inherently pro-rape and pro everything bad in the world. It's racist.
That was actually
yeah.
a pretty awesome dissertation there.
Well, I make the same argument, right? As soon as somebody says, "Oh, Denny's shouldn't be allowed to ban black people," I say, "Why are you raping me?"
Let's do it, man. Let's just make everything about rape. I mean, they want it to be about rape. Clearly, there's some issues there. Let's turn it around, man.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's on the table. It's on the table. So let's throw it out there.
I just had a hard time concentrating on everything you said after racists should be raped. My mind made it into rapists should be raised, and I'm imagining like this horse track with these rapists. They have like a sexy woman instead of a rabbit, and then it goes round and round, and you can bet on it. Like, is that a horrible idea? Could we do that? Like, we could mask the rapists so their personalities would be hidden.
Well, it wouldn't be the worst.
Isn't that what the
offensive topic we've discussed on here? But
more light.
So okay, I wanted to discuss. Okay, these articles we don't need to talk about. We need to talk about. I had one related to lesbians because like lesbian question is a theme. This archery thing is kind of interesting, but the big news of today had to do with the women's national soccer team fighting for their equal pay, right? And of course, there's like a million reasons this is completely stupid. Because they're not playing the same sports as the men, you know? There's objective measures that the men are competing by that have to do with strength and skill, right? And it being much more competitive such that when you compare what the women's national team is doing, you know, it's like good on them, but they're not playing the same sport. Like women's soccer and men's soccer, it's you know, it's not the same. We've already adjusted for women versus men by giving them a separate league where only women are allowed and they can compete with each other, right? The organization overseeing the whole thing agreed to a pay scheme. They rejected the one that the men use, right? And now the women's team are, like, after they win all these cups and everything, or whatever they give you in soccer, they're turning around and saying, well, how come we're not being paid? If the men had won all these championships, then they would have gotten this much money, and therefore that's what we're owed. And the judge has to, like, calmly explain to them, like they're retards, that like you didn't agree to that pay scheme and you don't get to just retroactively decide that those would be the terms under which you get paid after the fact. Like literally just like sitting them down, explaining to them like, okay, children, this is the way contracts work. This is the way basic logic works. This is the way living in a physical reality works, right?
Holy shit, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know they had different contracts. Like, shit. Well, I mean, they lose to 15-year-old teams. Like, how much money should they get then?
Well, to be fair, that was the Australian team, so maybe the Americans fare slightly better against teenage boys. We'll never know. Maybe they'll put that to the test. But this bitch Molly Levinson, which Carnivore in the chat, I'm sorry I had to mute you, but like I'm sorry, I'm not. Nobody knows where the line is of what's allowed in the chats here. But I figure you'll appreciate this story. So Levinson. We know what kind of name that is. Don't need to say anything more. But I looked into her, and it turns out this bitch, this lawyer-ass bitch, was a crisis manager who battled quote-unquote fake news regarding Pizzagate. So not only is she just like a sex hustler trying to get more shekels for women because vagina, but she also helped cover up and suppress information related to a bunch of satanic pedophiles who were related to Comet Ping Pong. So that was an interesting little connection. I'm glad I dug a little bit deeper. And I feel like, I don't know, I just
No,
throw it
that's
out there. Draw your own
not
conclusions.
surprising at all, actually.
On topic of Satanism, did you see the clip of Marina Abramovic for the new Microsoft virtual reality goggles? They took it down in like half an hour with 20,000 dislikes.
Was it because of the content or just because of her?
I think it was because of her. Like, a lot of people are realizing who she is. Like, she's always presented on Facebook, I guess, as, oh, she's like this artist, she's very savvy, and when you Google her, that's the first thing you see, and then you see, like, all the spirit cooking stuff, and the mock-up cannibalism, and really disturbing shit like these Rothschild parties and shit like that, and, like, I don't really know why it was disliked so much, but I assume it was because of her.
Well, okay, so Abramovic, she has a very long career and is very well known, and I know people freaked out over her because of the whole spirit cooking thing, right? But that's a pretty small amount of her career. A lot of it's this very kind of douchey performance art stuff, right? But some of it's a little bit cool. Like she did this one. There was one that was really well known. It was Balance, where they have an arrow and like the arrow's literally pointed at her, and it's a guy like holding it, and like they're just like holding it back suspended at each other, and they just like hold that pose, and like stuff like that is actually it's kind of cool. Let me see. Let me pull it up. Yeah,
Like
this
with an
one
actual
here.
bow?
Yeah, this right here. I have it on the screen now.
It will take like 20 seconds for me to see.
Yeah, just give it a moment.
We need to figure out why your delay is so fucking strong with the streams, man.
I don't know. Probably because I bring up shit like Pizzagate and stuff. I don't know. We don't censor and say beer bug often enough. I don't know. There's any
Yeah, the
number
beer
of
bug.
reasons like this channel is like not like promoted or whatever, but that's not really the point. But yeah, it was this one here. Like performance art kind of gets a bad name, right? Because it's very prone to just like stupid grifter bullshit. But it seems like she's kind of the real deal. Like she's actually done some stuff that's kind of cool.
Yeah, well, with the now I see the bow. Like, yeah, that's just no tension there. Like even a
I don't
good
know. It's probably enough tension
so
to do some damage. Or you don't think so? It's a pretty
no.
large bow.
How long did they hold that pose? The answer is in the length. You know.
Well, I mean, I think the point is it's more like a trust fall kind of thing, right? Because it doesn't
Because
matter
you
how
can
long they
just
hold it in terms of the damage. But I get what you're saying.
just look at the position of the bow. There's no tension on that string. Like
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've done some.
It was called Rest Energy.
I did some archery when I was younger, and there's no tension on that bow. Like it's just like a cool idea, I guess, but no danger there.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that makes me feel safer about it. But spoiler alert: she did not die.
But
yeah,
she did send Lady Gaga naked into the woods, apparently. Sadly, she returned.
Yeah, well, the other thing too is you might remember when what's his name? Oh my God, Shia LaBeouf did like his gay performance art thing, not literally gay, but like he was like sitting in a chair or like naked in a chair on a stage, blindfolded, and people could do whatever they want to him or whatever, right? And that's totally like her idea. That's just like straight up stolen from her. Where she has like a table out with different items, and the whole idea is that like there's no instruction, but it's like an experiment in seeing like what will people do, and a lot of like modern art and stuff like that. Like there's a famous
Yes.
one of a bunch of fish in blenders, right? And like the question is like how many people are just going to sit there and stare at it versus like actually press it.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just before I ever heard of her, I looked into like all of these Masonic initiation rites and shit like that. And it's always like, oh, I have this very cool concept, yeah, but that's what Freemasons do when they initiate a new